Welcome to episode 196 of Missing Pieces. This is my weekly audio journal podcast where I talk about what I'm up to and what I'm into. I'm recording this very early on Friday, February 2nd, 2024, which just so happens to be Groundhog Day. And in good news for everyone out there, Punxsutawney Phil did not see his shadow, which means that winter is officially over. It's now spring. Although I'm looking outside right now, and I think he might have been fibbing a little bit. Maybe it takes a few hours for it to transform over. But nonetheless, we did watch the Punxsutawney Phil opening today. He comes out of like this tree trunk that has a little door in the front of it. They hold him up to the crowd. Everyone goes crazy. And then he talks to this guy's magical stick. And then they communicate in some spiritual way to notify us whether it's 6 more weeks of spring if he sees his shadow, or in this case, no shadow. And it's now officially spring. So that's what happened today. If you haven't watched the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray from, I think, like 92, 93, if you watch that, you'll understand Groundhog Day quite a bit. That movie is really fun because it's all about Bill Murray essentially reliving the same day over and over again and dealing with the opportunities and the setbacks that come with having to actually experience that. And it's not until, well, I won't spoil it, but in the process, he becomes a better person than he is because he's kind of a jerk. Pardon me, I had to put my phone on silent mode. Cody was texting. I'm like, I'm recording a podcast here. How dare you? Kidding, of course. Anyways, I mentioned I'm recording this very early today, and it's because I'm doing the eat dessert first mentality, because today is mostly going to be an editing day. I have all this stuff that I recorded this week that I need to work on, and I'm not super looking forward to that, but I was super looking forward to English, this podcast. So I'm like, hey, let's eat dessert first. Let's do this first. So I'm happy to be here with you, and hopefully you're happy to be here with me. Thank you for tuning in and allowing me to be a part of your week. We talked already about one movie recommendation from this week. Let's talk about two more that we watched last weekend. We'll get this out of the way now since we're kind of on that topic. Watched two very similar movies, Barbie and Killers of the Flower Moon, or as I sometimes like to call it, Flowers of the Killer Moon. I always get it backwards. Those movies actually couldn't be any more different. I would say of the two, I definitely connected with Flowers or Killers of the Flower Moon much more than Barbie, but I do think that Barbie was a fun movie. Even Clarkman was into it. He had to get past the whole Barbie thing first, but then he was, it's a good movie for the whole family, particularly if you're a woman or if you have girls, because it's very empowering and it's nice. Now, Killers of the Flower Moon, very different movie, kind of more of a somber movie, and this one is about the Osage Native American tribe that's out in Oklahoma, and they became very wealthy off of oil that was in the ground there. And all these wealthy Osage women started marrying these white men that were kind of using them for getting their oil rights and just kind of marrying into money, including Leonardo DiCaprio, who is the main star of the movie. And it kind of details the story of how many of these women start, kind of dying off and how these guys are benefiting from it. And it's a true story. I will warn you with this movie, though. It's a very long one. In fact, we watched about 2 hours, and I had to go pick Clarkman up from his buddy's house. He was hanging out over there last Saturday, and I paused the movie to leave. And that's when I noticed there was still an hour and a half left of this movie. So if you are going to watch this, it's on Apple TV Plus. You could probably rent it elsewhere, but it's free on there. Dedicate basically half a day to it, or you might want to split it up into a couple different viewing sessions if you're going to tune into that. Barbie movie, you could totally get through in one session. And of the two, I think it really just depends on the mood that you're in or that you want to be in, because they have both very different feelings and different tones. But it was interesting to watch those movies back to back. And I don't really have a rating system, so I will say they're worth a watch. I wouldn't watch either of them again, though. And both of the movies of them, I would say I probably have thought more about the Osage Indian tribe than I have about Barbie since watching it. Again, I'm probably more in that demographic than the Barbie one, but it's not to say that anyone couldn't watch either of these movies and enjoy them. I would highly recommend maybe kids not watching Killers of the Flower Moon. I think that probably goes without me having to warn you on that. In other news this week, I made my triumphant return back to the gym. And I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but I haven't been to the gym since I broke my foot, which happened at the very end of November. I didn't go in December at all. and I barely went in January. It was like the very last day of January, second to last day of January. I finally made my way back, and I was glad that I did. It felt great being there. I could definitely tell that I wasn't able to do as much as I could before, like back when I was going pretty heavily. It definitely helped last year having a workout partner in Cody. We would hold each other accountable and go every day. Now it's very easy for me to just get into like doing work, if we want to call what I do work, than it is to be like, okay, let's go to the gym. But I made a point of doing that. And I've also been getting on the elliptical in the days that I don't go there. So I'm holding myself accountable to the 30 minutes each day. And I'll say the weight training at the gym, I felt great when I left there, but I knew the next day that I would probably end up paying for that, being that I haven't done much of that as of late. And the next day really wasn't bad. It was really weird. It was like 2 to 3 days after I got super sore. Like my whole upper body was just like, oh, I'm so like, I was just feeling it. And I was like, dang, this is what they call DOMS, I guess. So delayed onset muscle soreness, I believe is what that stands for. You learn something new every day in Greg's World podcast. Wait, no, it's not called that anymore. It's called Missing Pieces. It could be called whatever you want to call it. Greg's audio journal, I think, is probably the most descriptive thing. We're not changing the name, if you're wondering. You're like, Greg, just stay with something for at least a little bit. I'll try. But anyways, I was happy to do that, and I'm looking forward to holding myself accountable and continuing on with going to the gym and then doing the 30 minutes each day, because I think it'll make a big difference. I just want to feel great, you know? And I've been actually thinking about a lot of this week. I didn't really have this in the outline, but I feel like I'll go into it here. I've been thinking a lot about where I want to be a year from now. This is like one of those job interview questions where they're like, so where do you see yourself 5 years from now? I've actually been kind of thinking on the extremes of that. I've been thinking like, where do I want to be when I hit 40? Because right now I'm 39 and the train is moving very fast towards 40. In fact, we've got 11 months left, less than 11 months now that we're in February. So I need to think about where do I want to be, like physically, business-wise, like all of the things, every aspect of life, mentally, physically, professionally. Where do I want to be? So I've been thinking about that, and I've also been thinking about that in terms of being 50. I know that feels like a ways off, but I'm like, and this is kind of what I like to think about, and maybe this could help somebody out there too. Not life advice, but just kind of where my mind is what can I do today that's going to help me get to where I want to be 10 years from now? Like, where do I, first of all, you have to have a plan. You got to be like, okay, so when I turn 50, let's just make up a dream scenario. I want to be living in Maui in a very nice house. I want to go out surfing every day. I want to be enjoying all these pets that I have. This is like my dream on steroids, but like, let's just say that's your dream. And it's like, okay, you got 10 years and 10 months to get there, or 9 years and 10 months to get there. What are you going to do to make that happen? And maybe that's, you can't go on the extreme. You can't be like, I want to be an NFL player. Probably not going to happen, but you can have like little dreams and like ways that you see your life. And I'm definitely like more of a visual person. Like I can see things that I want before they happen. And I feel like I can like mold them and make them happen in the same way that you can look at a whole pile of Lego bricks and be like, I'm going to turn that into something cool. And then you make it happen. Like it's the same thing, just on a bigger scale, maybe a slightly more difficult one. But, I'm kind of making that outline, and it might be something that I actually sit down and put pen to paper, or fingers to keyboards here, and actually jot down, like, what do I want to be in 10 years, and like some plans to make that happen, particularly like with YouTube as well, because you can make the type of content you've made for the last 10 years, for example, and people love that. That's what they've come to follow you by, and they would love to see more. But then you also need to think like, is this where I'm going to be 10 years from now? And like, what kind of creator do I want to be 10 years from now? And then you got to take the steps to get there. And what do we always say? I try to throw this into every episode. This is like my little thing, because I think it's important to hear. The 2 steps to success: showing up and staying consistent. But I guess there is a third step where you have to have some direction that you're going into. That being said, I do feel like going in a direction, even if it's the wrong direction, is better than not having any direction at all or staying where you're at. So that's my Greg talk for this week on that topic. Again, not something that I was planning to get into, and maybe I'll talk more about when I have it more fleshed out. It'd actually make like a really good maybe episode of its own, possibly, where I just kind of talk about like the direction that I'm thinking of right now. And it'd be fun to maybe compare that as time goes by and be like, oh man, that sweet summer child, that's what he really wanted. That it never happened. He failed it miserably at life. I don't know. I just think it's kind of cool, and something that I ponder sometimes. I think it's good to think about those things. Anyways, let's talk about some bad things. You guys, we talked about a good thing, going back to the gym, right? Feeling good about myself. You know what could ruin you feeling good about yourself? When you're at the gym and you get an email from YouTube. I hate getting emails from YouTube. And in fact, I was telling Cody about this. The entire time that I've been doing YouTube as a full-time creator, nothing good has come from it from YouTube's end. There's just been like negative things and setbacks, and this was another one this week. Not as detrimental as last year where they shut off my monetization for an entire month, but this one got me a little worried because I got an email that said, we reviewed our systems reviewed this video, artificial intelligence basically reviewed this video, and after a manual review, we've determined that it's made for kids. And if you guys don't know this, the whole COPPA thing it feels so far behind us, but YouTube has this thing where videos that are made for kids have to be marked as such. I don't technically make videos that are made for kids, like in the sense that you think of like a Ryan's Toy Review or like these videos that are just very like, preschoolish. But when you have a child in your videos, it can be seen as such, right? Like anytime that the AI sees that there's a kid, it's like, okay, this video is obviously made for kids because there's a kid in it. Even if like 10 minutes of the video is just me, an adult, being by myself doing the most boring things of all time, it's like, well, there's a kid in this video, obviously made for kids. And then I think when the AI recognizes that and they send it to a human for review, I think that 99% of the time the human's just like, yep, totally agree. I don't think that they overturn it, to be honest. So anyways, I got one of these, and I've gotten these before. I didn't think much of it. Like, that wasn't a big deal. It's like, okay, I just take my beating as it is. If you didn't know, made for kids content makes significantly less money or hardly anything compared to regular videos, which is why ideally you don't want to have made for kids content. And then there's no comments, there's no recommendations. Like, it just basically kills the video. Oh well, one video. I've got 1,200 others on the channel. Keep working out. I get another email. It says, reviewed this video after manual review made for kids. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And then just to cut the story short, as the day went on over the next few hours, I got about 6 or 7 of these, and they're all for videos that I uploaded in the month of January. It's almost like they just did like an audit of my channel. And then being that all my videos are just like our family just vibing together, and Clark's obviously a part of the family. It's almost like if you said like any videos with dogs in them are made for dogs. It's like, well, Roxy's a part of our family. She's in the videos, of course. It's like, oh, made for dogs. Only dogs can watch this. And they hit me with like 7 of these. And like, I got a little scared here because there's this thing at the bottom of the email that says, repeated abuse of our made for kids system where you have to mark it properly, even though there's no clear definition of what actually is made for kids and what's not. Because I see a lot of videos that Clarkman watches that are made by adults, like Minecraft playing, that are very clearly made for kids that aren't, even though darn well that's only kids watching that, but there's no kid in the video. So they're clear, right? It's just such a broken system. I preemptively just marked a whole bunch of my other videos. Like if it had Clark and I just marked them all as made for kids because it's like, you know what? I'd rather not make any money off those videos than have my whole channel be disrupted in some way. Because who knows what YouTube can do? Like they could be like, hey, we're going to penalize you and not allow you to make money this month. And that sucks, right? Obviously, like if you went into your job and your boss is like, hey, I don't like what you're doing. I'm not going to tell you what you're doing wrong or what is good or bad, but I don't like what you're doing and I'm going to shut your paychecks off next month. You probably wouldn't be very thrilled with that, I wouldn't imagine. So I preemptively marked some, and then they went through and they're like, yeah, we agree. And I'm like, holy smokes. So it got me worried. I'm just like, I'm waiting for the YouTube hammer to drop on me, which kind of takes me to the next topic here, Patreon. Recently I moved from YouTube memberships over to Patreon, trying to disrupt the reliance that I have solely on YouTube, and Patreon is just such a better position for me, I think, in like every single way, which I've talked about before and I'm not going to get into here. But it went from being, and I said this in my thank you video that I recently made to the patrons, I said, this went from being a good idea moving over here to being a great idea this week. Like that day when all this happened, luckily I haven't had anything since. So maybe I survived this one, but it's like, dude, I am like hostage to YouTube, whether I like to be or not. And they've been very good to me. The algorithm has been favorable. The gods have smiled upon me, which is good. But you just never know when something's going to happen. Like that could have easily just like, say you get 10 of those. Who knows what the number is? Who knows how it works? But like, say you get 10 of those and they're just like, womp, you're done. What if they delete my channel? Like that's my biggest fear. I consider Greg's World to be my life's work. whether you you agree with that or not. Maybe you'd say my life's work, and maybe I should say my life's work is raising my family, which is probably the truth. But my my artistry or creativity has been completely put into this channel and making all these videos documenting our life over the last 12 years, which thankfully I still have all the videos, but like it's a life journal that I've created that I'm very proud of. And the fact that somebody could just strike that down and make it disappear in one keystroke scares the heck out of me. So I'm super glad that I'm making this transition to Patreon. I honestly wish that I would have just stuck with it back in the day before I came back to YouTube, thinking like, oh, everything being on YouTube is so much better because people will be able to see it and they don't have to leave the platform. I should have left the platform. So we're building it up. In fact, I'm happy to say like it's been more successful than I could have imagined. Do you remember the time when I came up with the idea here where we would take the little instant photos and then I would send them to patrons? Well, that happens to be the tier that most people are signing up for. So we went on a picture spree, and I sent like 11 of those out, which was pretty cool. And now I have like 6 more to do. So I'm trying to set this goal of taking at least one photo every single day. It's just like the little Fuji Instax, I think is what's called. Clarkman's is called the Instax Mini 9. And it's just one of the things where you look in the viewfinder, or there's like a mirror on the front if you're trying to take a selfie, and you press the button and it goes, and the flash goes off, and then it prints out a picture that develops over time, which is really cool, and I love it. So I'm so glad that I came up with that idea to incorporate that in the Patreon, because it's giving me like a reason to take these photos. The only problem is sometimes when I take these photos, sometimes they don't turn out, which is fine because we just make those keepers for us. Like I was trying to take a selfie of our entire family, which is not easy to do with these things. It's not like your phone where you hold it up and you see the screen. And Cody got cut off, so I'm like, okay, like that. I guess that one's ours. But it's like, each one of those pictures I did the math on, because I actually ordered more of the film, or if you want to call it that. I ordered more of that this week, and they're about 70 cents each. So every time you take a dud, that's 70 cents. That's just like, you might as well just light on fire, which, I mean, could be a cool thing to do with the bad photos. But I came across an upgraded version of Clarkman's Fuji Instax that Santa Claus gave him. The one that I found is called the Fujifilm Mini Evo. And the cool thing about this, and this might seem like a big cheat, because it kind of is, because the idea of this camera is that you take a photo that you have no idea what it's going to look like, and then when it prints out, it's like a surprise, right? And that's part of the fun of it. But for me, the main part of the fun is that it's a one-of-one copy that I'm sending out to someone that's supporting our channel. I just think that's like awesome, right? But then again, there's sometimes where I'm like, oh, that photo is really good. I really wish I had that. And I found myself sometimes just taking 2 back to back so I can give one away and one for us. But what I found with this Mini Evo is that, one, it's more of like a professional looking camera. Like Clark's definitely looks like a toy, and that's fine for kids. But this one looks really cool. And it has an LCD screen on the back, which is where the cheat kind of comes in, because you can take a picture and then you can see it on the screen. So if you take that family selfie and it doesn't look good, you can retake it. And then what you can do, and this is the beauty of it, is you find a picture you like, and then you can click like the print, and then it prints it out on demand off your camera, as opposed to it automatically printing. So you could say there was a picture I was trying to get for, whatever, and then I take it like 3-4 different times. I pick the best one, and then I can send that one out to a patron. And then if I really love it, I can keep one for myself too. And I just think that's awesome. Again, kind of cheating, but kind of not, because ultimately, like in the end, what I really want is the photo. It doesn't matter if it was one that I took blindly. It matters if it's a good composition and something that I'm proud of that I want to send out. So I think I'm going to use, and I'm trying to be very transparent with the Patreon funds and where it's going towards. So the first month of Patreon earnings, in fact, this is going to take all of it plus some. I'm going to, as of right now, people are joining every day, so maybe not, but I'm going to buy this on Amazon, and you're going to be shocked when you find out the cost of this thing is $199. It's kind of expensive, but I feel like it's going to be a great investment. I feel like it's something that I'm going to use every day. I'm going to try to get a photo of something, whether it's me, Mrs. Verkatech, Cody, as she's known in some circles, Clarkman. The ones that I did initially were like us as a family, because I feel like, that's probably what most people want. But what I'd like to do is develop a little bit of a catalog of photos And then when someone joins, I can say, like have them all numbered and be like, which number would you like? And then they can pick one, or I could send a random one. And another thing I want to do with sending those out is I just sent them out in an envelope with like a Brickatech sticker, because I had a bunch of those. I was like, hey, these guys might want a Brickatech sticker. But the thing is, some of these people may have never even seen Brickatech. They might have come from Greg's World, because that's the beauty of the Patreons, is that it's from all the channels now instead of just one place. And I don't know how people join. It'd be cool if it like said like where they came from, or if I could see like which link they used. But what I'd really like to get, and I was looking at this morning on Amazon, I'd like to get like some nice thank you cards that come with envelopes that I can then like, you can open up, and I could write a little message inside, like, thank you for supporting us. Just something simple like that. And we could all sign it and then put the card in, or the picture inside that, and then fold the card shut and put that into a nice little envelope. I just think that'd be really great. So I think I'm going to pull the trigger on that. And obviously the film, I've got 2 of those boxes coming, so we should be good on that. I think there's a total of 40 shots. Each one holds 10 photos. So it depends on how many that we make for ourselves. Because again, I just love doing these. And I was thinking, man, if we go traveling, if we go on vacation, I could take those with us. I don't know how the film would work going through the baggage, like x-rays, but I think I can probably keep that out and say like, hey, this is film that I don't want to get it developed by the x-ray machine. I think that may happen. So I'll have to do some research on that. That'd be if we're flying. But if we're just doing road trips and stuff, like if we go to Outer Banks or if we go to Ocean City this year, it'd be cool to put that camera like in my bag and then have it and take a picture, take one at Knoebels, and just have like that old school vibe and that feel, which I just think is so cool. And then to give those away and share those as much as like, I part of it is like to get a photo in the mail of someone else's family, seems odd out of context, right? It's like, why would I want to picture your family? But if it's somebody that you've been watching on YouTube for years, and like we send you this personalized thing, we sign the bottom of each of the pictures too. And I just think that's like a cool little gift. And I think it'd be better with the presentation if I upgraded that. So right now I'm feeling bad about the first people that signed up, because they're like the most, like they joined, and I said this to them. I was like, you guys joined without any like proof. It's just like you signed up on good faith that I would provide something to you. And I've been doing that. We've been doing early access. I've did exclusive videos. We're doing a live stream tomorrow, actually yesterday, if you're watching this the day it comes out, that Clark and I are gonna do. And that's my other idea of the week. And this isn't necessarily a promotion thing. This is just like a part of my week and what I'm up to and into. So I feel like I can safely share it here. And I also feel safe because I was expecting some pushback from this from somewhere, some corner of the internet. And I'm shocked because there's been none. There's been no naysayers. There's been no haters. None of that kind of stuff. It's just been people that have been supportive. So I'm very, very thankful for that. And I appreciate you guys for bearing with me as I make this shift. As I mentioned, like where do we want to be 10 years from now? Do I want to be completely reliant on YouTube, or do I want Patreon to be that? And I'm thinking this might be the move based on things that I've seen over the last 6 years. I've seen some things. But my idea of the week for this was the Patreon live stream that I do, exclusive to patrons. I was like, what are we going to do during that? And I thought of this idea that's gotten some support from the peeps that have seen it so far, where I think we're going to do something creative, whether it be a piece of art or a Lego mock. We're going to let people that are in the stream kind of dictate what we do. And then when we're done with the stream, I'm hoping to have like a finished piece, whether it be a mock or a painting, a picture, drawing, whatever it is. And then I want to give that away to a random person that either was at the stream or watched it later, because obviously some people aren't going to be able to make it, on a certain day. You have lives, I don't. So I'm like, hey, and maybe some people won't want it, because tomorrow, just as a spoiler, Clark made a Punxsutawney Phil mock. It's like a little groundhog, and we're going to build the guy that holds him up. And once it's done, I would love to give that away to somebody if somebody wants it. So we're going to do that. And if somebody does want it, we'll do one of those digital wheels where we put everybody's name on it, and then we'll spin the wheel, make a video of it so you can see it happen in real time. And then that person will win our Lego mock, and I'll ship it out to you. I think that's cool. So that's my idea of the week for this. If anyone has any cool ideas, I guess maybe this isn't the place to share that, or for you to consider, but I'm open to it. And I want to give these people as much back as I possibly can, because they put their faith into me, and I need to I need to provide. So that's what I'm going to do. So that was kind of like the world of cameras and what we're kind of getting into Lego. I do have one other camera story, then I'll tell you what I did this week in Lego, since we're kind of we're in the no man's zone between those things. So Bud and Deb, my mother and father-in-law, invited me out to these estate sales that were happening yesterday. There was like 3 of them happening just in our town. I was like, oh, cool. It's like a mini yard sale season in between yard sale seasons, which is now we're in February, is coming up at the end of April, and that's not too far away. So yard sale season's coming back soon. But they had these 3 estate sales and they invited me to go. So I decided that, heck yeah, I would love to do that. And I actually found a camera score there. It was, if you don't know what a estate sale is, basically it's someone most likely that passed away and their house is full of stuff and they just want to like sell everything off. And it's kind of sad a little bit. Like you think about, like, I think about my studio here and I've got all these Lego sets and all my stuff that I love. And this person probably loved as well. And then you just walk into the house and you can walk through any room. You can walk, into their basement, their attic, wherever they have it open. And you look at stuff sitting around, everything is kind of priced out and on, on tables or on the bed or whatever. And then you can buy their stuff. And it's just, it's kind of sad because it's like, this person, like they spent their life like collecting this, or, this is like a part of things that they own, but maybe their family didn't want it or it's too much or whatever. So it has to go somewhere and people come through and just buy things. And I wasn't having much success. You could tell these were older people. And outside of like finding things that I could put on eBay that I don't really have much knowledge in, like I know some things really well, but most of the stuff like antique wise, I'm just, it's out of my element. I'm like a fish out of water, if you will. But there was one room that had some camera stuff in it. And one of the things was this little Nikon Coolpix L32 point and shoot camera. They had $20 on it. It came with the box and everything was there. It came with a little pouch that held the camera and stuff. And old Greg would have been like, dude, that's like a $5 camera. But new Greg, who has been looking at cameras lately on eBay, knows that these point shoot cameras are going crazy. So I looked this thing up, and in like the condition that it's in with what I have in the paperwork, it even has the receipt inside from when they bought it brand new in, I think, 2015 from Walmart for $99. This thing right now used sells for $170. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and buy that. So I spent $20 on this, and I'm going to list it on eBay and try to make $150 off my investment, which, crazy enough, doesn't even fully pay for the Mini Evo if I were to put the funds towards that. But I think if I combine the money after fees and after shipping with the Patreon fees or money, we might be able to pull it off. If you came here for the financial talk, you got it. So I'll be converting one camera to another that I'll be able to make cool stuff out of. The funny thing is that camera probably takes much better photos than the ones that I'm taking with the Fujifilm Instax ones, but it's the vibe, you know what I mean? Like it's instant printing and having it there. So I will I'll have that. Oh, I thought of one other thing this week too before we move on out of this camera talk. I thought, the little photos that I take that I really love, I could always take photos of them, and then I could post those to Greg's World or Brickatech, depending on what the subject matter is. And then I could be like, show that and then make that a promotion for Patreon. Be like, hey, this is the photo that I took today, and it's going out to Billy Bob, who joined today, and then have a link. Because I was like, I mentioned before, like I wasn't going to promote this at all. But then I thought, if you don't, and I think I've said this before, and I believe this, if you don't sell yourself and if you don't try to get what you want, no one's going to do that for you. The best thing you can do is fight for yourself, right? So I'm going to post it. It's a nice little photo. Maybe people enjoy it. If there's a link there, there's a link. If people want to join, they can. If they don't have to. I'm not going to spam this all over though. That's the one thing that I'm drawing the line, but I feel like that's a fun little promotion. It's not even, it's like sharing something unique with like a link attached. No big deal, right? At least that's what I tell myself. I don't think anyone's gonna be mad about that. Maybe that's when the hate will start coming out. Like, oh, Greg, you're just posting these pictures for people to sign up. But it's like, hey, it's a little bit of both, right? And I don't think there's any harm in that, at least in my opinion. Let's move on though from Patreon and camera talk. Probably like, are those the 2 biggest things in my life right now? Yeah, probably. Like at least like professionally. Let's talk about Lego. My week in Lego, as it was formerly called, our Lego journey, as I like to call it, this week in Lego. I got into a situation where I learned that sometimes your Lego collection becomes an investment, what I did at the end of last week was I did a community post listing like 4 random sets from the backlog that I was interested in building. And I said, which of these sets would you like me to build next? You know, the most votes will be the one I build. And by far, the one that got the most votes was the Lego Parisian Restaurant, a creator modular set that I got years ago. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So I brought it out and I'm like, wait a minute. Let me check the price of this thing. And then I come to find out that on eBay, this thing sells for like $400. And I started looking at it and I'm like, I wouldn't pay $400 for that set. Like looking at it, it's a great set. I would not pay $400 for it, which means in the world of Lego, this is how I think of things. It means it's worth more to someone else than it is to me, obviously, by a good margin. So I decided to kind of, call an audible, switch things up a little bit. I put that back on the shelf and I ended up ultimately building the set that was like my number one that I was hoping people would choose, but obviously not something that people are super interested in, and that is the Lego Ideas typewriter. This set, wow, I think I ended up getting instant karma on this one because of every Lego set that I've ever built in my life. I might go on record as saying this was the most challenging. Now, in terms of being annoying, I would say the Darth Maul bust, which you can kind of see the corner of right up here behind me. That one you're building layer by layer and was super annoying with the instructions. This one, though, very repetitive, which makes sense because you're putting all the keys and stuff on there, but also super finicky. Finicky is the word that I would use to describe this set, and I described it that way quite a bit when I ultimately finished it up. It's very cool, and it looks great, and it functions, thankfully, because there was a part where I spent like 1 hour one night. Like I was going to build like a couple bags. I got stuck on bag 7 because I couldn't get the thing to work properly. Like there's a little hammer thing that comes up like for typewriters, as you can probably, like when you hit, I describing a typewriter because I don't think many people have experience with typewriters, even if you're older. You hit a key on a typewriter and like you would on a keyboard. But instead of that electronically going to your computer and then to your monitor, this has like a piece of metal that comes up with the letter on it that hits the paper with ink. And that's what types your letter. This wasn't working right. So I was testing out all these different parts of this bag that I built. It was just this Technic contraption was the whole bag. So I was moving things around and I was taking stuff apart and I'm like, it looks like it's built perfectly. And it was. It wasn't until I took this one Technic rod and I just gave it a little bit of like play in it, just move things apart just ever so slightly. The thing started working flawlessly and I was like, thank God, because I was super close to thinking like, dude, I'm going to have to bail on this. Like, this is going to be embarrassing. I've set up my whole week around building this thing. And now it's not going to work. I'm going to have to break it down, put it in the box, put it on eBay as a used set. This was just a huge failure on my part, but I stayed consistent, right? Key to success, showing up, staying consistent. And I somehow got it to work and it's great. Like it's done. I have it working. It's on my shelf looking fantastic on display. But my gosh, that was the most finicky thing that I've ever built in Lego. It's so darn complicated. The designer needs an award for this because like I couldn't imagine making something so incredible out of Lego that works like a typewriter. But it was just shocking to see that this build, in my opinion, was more challenging than the Lego Technic BMW motorcycle that I spent weeks working on, or some of those other very complicated Technic sets. Like this is basically an extremely complicated Technic set with some Lego bricks on the outside to hide all of that. And I don't think, like, I certainly didn't realize exactly what I was getting into when I signed up for this. Like, it looks like a regular Lego set, but don't be fooled. It's a finicky set. So I would say if you are going to get that set, which it's still available right now, I would say build at your own risk. That's what I told the people on our Discord. I'm like, dude, this thing is crazy. And this is coming from a guy that's built a lot of Lego sets. Speaking of Lego sets and collecting and going forward, I think what I've decided to do is any Lego set that I buy going forward, I want it to be a piece that I intend to display here in the studio. And I might have talked about this before, but I'm thinking about where do I want to be in the future? Where do I want to be in 1 year, 10 years? I want this space to be something where I look around and I see these various Lego sets and I think about like my week in Lego or that chapter of our Lego journey. Synonymous terms in my opinion, but I want to like not have it be such a cluster and like have little miscellaneous sets that I build where I just like build it just to build it. And then like I break it down and put in the storage room. That just doesn't seem like it makes any sense to me. I want everything to be something that I put on display. And obviously I'm going to run out of room very quickly. But what I'm going to do is like the Lego model where after you build a new set, you look around, you're like, okay, that one's been out for a couple years. Let's retire that set. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to retire some older sets or ones that I don't really want to have on display anymore. And I could either put those in the stored room complete or break those down. But there's always going to be new sets coming. And like this year's fantastic for Lego. Like there's some really great Lego creator sets that I have my eyes on. And like the bigger sets are kind of what I'm into these days. So that's pretty much the direction that I see things going. Each of my like updates that I do on my Lego channel is going to be kind of like working towards these bigger sets that I intend to put on display, or even smaller ones. But I just want to have everything look like a nice little museum in here. And like, I guess maybe for it to always be changing too, because aren't we all, right? We're all always changing and becoming what we want to be. I think that's kind of the theme of this. I won't say the title yet because one, I don't have it. And two, I'll never be able to find it in the midst of this podcast. I've done it before. I'm like, that's a great title. Put that as a title. And I'm like Saturday morning, I'm exporting. I'm like, what was the title of that podcast? What did I want to call this? I'm also going to put like a finder's fee or a bounty out for someone that listens to it to be like, hey, if you could just tell me what I was going to title this right now, we'll just call it 196. Let me know and then we'll put it as a title. But I'm really loving that idea of collecting. I'm having fun with the videos being a weekly thing where it does feel like a more concentrated effort. I do think that I'm missing out by maybe not showing up more often, but these videos are like they feel very special to me when I put one out because it's like that was a time period, you know, in the same way that the Greg's World videos are that, only a little bit more happening on a smaller scale there. I've tried doing the week-long Greg's World videos, and it's a lot to cram into a week. And that's not what people want. They want to see the daily stuff there, or as daily as I can get. So that's what's happening with that. Also got my Baratect. I was like, what is the thing that I build on? Baratect. I got that cleared off. Looks fantastic. It was getting pretty bad again. And then Clark and I did some Vader artwork. We're trying to make this big Lego Darth Vader mosaic art piece that I'm going to put on the wall. And I'm excited for that too. That's going to look stunning. So that's kind of like all the things we did in Lego this week. It was very concentrated on the typewriter. I also, there was other things. I listed some things for sale on the Brickitect store. And we were talking about, promoting things through a photo. It worked stunningly on there because I think I listed like 13 sets or something like that. I took one photo of it and I just did a little community post that said, just listed these sets on eBay. Come check them out if you're interested in any of them. The Storage Room of Doom thanks you for your service. It's just like a little joke. And then I got like 5 sales the first day, and then I got 2 more the next day, and I think I got 2 more today. And I saw people commenting like, I bought that set or I bought this. And it was like, hey, that's cool. That's exactly what a community post should be. So it's a nice photo showing all these sets, and then it's a place that you can buy, or you can come support the channel in some way. And no one got upset about that either. So I think I live in my head a little too much when it comes to that kind of thing. Like I'm so worried about like offending someone. But the truth is, if someone is offended by that, they're not truly a supporter of yours, Like no one's going to be mad that you're trying to do something better for yourself, or trying to like improve whatever it is that you do, or your business or whatever, because like that, the money that I made from that Lego stuff, that's going to go towards the 2024 Lego budget. So it's like, in my opinion, it's like a win for everyone, because then I can make more stuff and share it with the world. So that's me justifying it, I suppose. I talked about collecting going forward, scratch that off. I do have one other thing to talk to you about here before we get into listener feedback. And this is a whole thing here. A story that I wrote of a dream that I had the other morning. It was one of those dreams that happens like right before you wake up and feels so real that when you wake up from it, you feel like you're still in it. And I felt like I needed to write this one down. And Cody was there. I told her all about this too, because she's a big part of this dream. And I was like, I got to share this in my podcast. Someone's really going to enjoy this. So without any further ado, I'll read you my story here. It's about 3 paragraphs long of this dream that I had. I'll just get into it. Let's go. This doesn't have a title. It says, I'll just start where the dream started from what I recalled. And this is, I literally wrote this right after I woke up, so it has as much detail as I could remember at the time. It says, Cody took me to this house where a bunch of vehicles were parked outside. She proceeded to surprise me with a custom Jeep Wrangler she was buying for me. It was modified with stickers all over the front grille. One read, "Just married," and there was a picture of Clark as a baby that said, "I'm 1 year old." These were all magnetized to the front grille, or like it adhered onto like the classic Jeep grill somehow. It was really big stuff. Very gaudy. The Jeep was green outside and had a tan interior and no steering wheel. It was converted to electric, but not like a Tesla electric. It was more like a golf cart electric. I went on to say, I asked her how much she paid for this contraption, and she said 8. And I said, 100? She said, 1,000. Then she said it was just half that she put down. It was going to be $16,000. I felt sick to my stomach. Not only because like a lot of money, but this thing was like hideous and terrible. I told her we need to get out of this. So we went inside the house and there was this entire family sitting in the living room. I told them they need to sell this to someone else and give us our money back. I told the guy said that he couldn't sell it today, was his response to me. And I got a bit mouthy. I said, I didn't say today, dummy. That was when he took Cody outside to show her another modified vehicle, this time a busted Toyota Tacoma, and she was interested in it. I felt like screaming. That's when I woke up and I was mad at Cody for getting us into this mess. It really was like one of those situations where you wake up and I was still mad at her. I was like, why did you buy this Jeep Wrangler? Why are you buying that truck? Your truck's better than that. This thing was like so terrible. I do remember one other thing now that I'm talking about this. I feel like she got into the Jeep, the electric Jeep with no steering wheel. And then like she turned it on, but when she got out, it wasn't in park. So it rolled forward and like we had to jump into it to keep it from hitting our Subaru. So it was just like disaster after disaster and just a like literal nightmare. Like that, what's worse than your wife spending a pile of money? Like that's your worst fear. I mean, it's my worst fear. I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, she, it was in, I guess in good nature, she's tried to surprise me with this custom Jeep because she knows I love the Jeep life, obviously, or I did at one point. And, converted it to an electric golf cart with no steering wheel with stickers all over the front of it that said just married and this picture of Clark that says I'm 1 year old. And it was like a picture of him as like a toddler. So it wasn't even like, it was all messed up. So you dream analysts out there, analysts, you can help me figure out exactly what's happening with this. I think some of it comes from me. The night before I was working on like getting my tax information ready for our accountant. And I was going through my credit card statement to see like what business expenses we had. And I was looking at our travel expenses. And I think a part of it is like she set up all these tours when we went to Italy. And I was looking at the cost of these tours and I'm like, we spent that much on that tour. And I think a part of that must have leaked into my subconscious because I think that's what the whole thing came from is like her spending what I considered to be an exorbitant amount of money on this thing that probably wasn't worth the amount of money that she spent on it. So yeah, I fight these battles even in my dreams with things. Why can't I just have a nice dream? You know what I mean? Like instead of that, why am I not just like living the life that I want to live in the future? That way I don't even have to imagine it. It's already happening. And then I wake up, I just write it all down. Maybe someday, maybe I can work towards that. But anyways, that was my week and what I was into and up to and dreaming about. We'll have to add that as a second part to our intro there. But now we'll get into what you guys had to say about last week's episode. Currently sitting, we're doing good on time. I feel like Sam's going to have enough time to get home on this one. We're going long. First one comes from Janelle. She says, Turkey Hill is a new favorite of mine since I discovered their convenience stores sell clearly Canadian. I'm not sure what that is. The only problem with finding my favorite drink from the early 90s is realizing that Turkey Hill stores are only on the eastern part of the state. I like that our school district builds 2 snow days into the year, so we get out Friday before Memorial Day. I love old snow days, and the fact that kids eat both breakfast and lunch at school makes it count as a day. There you go. You got to love that. Turkey Hill, we have a Turkey Hill convenience store just a couple miles from my house. I'll have to see if they have clearly Canadian. I'm assuming that you said that's a drink, favorite drink from the early 90s, which got me thinking about a drink that I remember from the 90s that I don't know if they make anymore. Does anyone remember Sobe? S-O-B-E? I haven't seen it for years, so I don't know if it's still a thing or not, but I remember people at school having Sobeys. They came in like a glass bottle. I might have just taken someone back. If you're like around my age, maybe older, maybe it just took you back 25 years in time, which is kind of cool. So let me know if you've heard of Sobe or if you've ever have it or miss it or if it still exists. Next one comes from DB Bricks. He says, I definitely understand why so many people find January to be the worst month of the year. And believe me, I'm not exactly what you'd call a fan, but at least I can see the light at the end of the tunnel this side of Christmas. The days are slowly but surely getting longer, and the weather here in my part of the UK has, aside from a couple of storms blowing through last week, been really quite kind this month. Very cold and frosty, but beautiful, clear blue skies. What is this blue sky you speak of? Is that a thing? Wait, what are you talking about? All I see is gray as far as the eye can see. Sadly, no snow though. Very jealous of you guys getting good amounts of that. Plus, January tends to be my busiest month of the year for work, so I've got plenty to keep me occupied while not much else is happening. Halloween tends to be my low point of the year. The memories of summer are still fresh in the memory. Not that we had one last year. The nights drawing in, temperature getting colder, and the weather being constantly miserable. Safe to say, I hate it with a passion. He goes on to say, good to see this Patreon side of things all set up. I've also set up an account specifically to sign up to you. I'll get it finished off on the first of the month, just so the money comes out on the same day as the rest of my bills. We'll probably have to restrict myself to just the middle tier for now, but fingers crossed, sign up for an upper tier in due course. Hey, all good, brother. Thank you for signing up. I did see that you joined. He's on our Discord now too, which is great because he's been a repeat offender here, DB, on Missing Pieces. So it's good to be able to talk to him further. As far as January, I'm kind of the opposite of you. Like when I think of October or Halloween, I feel like, every single month, like in the fall, there's something to look forward to. And I think that's only what it comes down to, right? Like you have summer, and then like September is still nice and warm here, at least. Like it still feels like summer. And then October, things do cool down, but it's beautiful here because we get a glorious fall that happens in Pennsylvania in October. Then Halloween is always fun. I love Clarkman doing this Halloween thing, getting dressed up. We go out trick-or-treating. It's like a highlight for me. Then November, you still have like Thanksgiving, you've got the break from that here in the US at least. And then you've got Black Friday, which isn't even a thing anymore. And then like Christmas and like the whole month of December is awesome because people are just in good spirits and it's like activity and Christmas lights and music and Christmas cookies, still carrying those with me. And it's awesome. But then January is like all of that's gone. It's all forgotten. Even like right when January hits, it's just like this, all of the good times are gone. And now I just keep looking forward to the good times coming back again. Like we're talking about yard sale season happening in April. So I think the key is, like I did this week, find little moments and things that bring you happiness that are like enough for you to kind of survive this. Or you can just be like mentally decide January is a great month. Like you're obviously having a good one, but for me, like I'm ready to be done with it. So I'm glad Phil made the decision today that winter's officially over, and tomorrow I'm gonna go outside with my shorts, t-shirt, and flip-flops, and we're gonna go have a great time. We'll see how scientific it is. Phil, looking at you. Anyways, thanks again for signing up for the Patreons. I don't remember what tier you signed up for, but maybe we can get a picture out to you all the way over to the UK. I actually have these universal stamps that can be used for anywhere in the world. So far, everyone except for one person has been from the US. Well, the ones that I've sent out so far, but I've got these stamps that I can use, so we can try to throw something your way. I want to get a thank you card out though, so we'll have to get those in Amazon. I'm gonna order those today. I got a whole thing. I'm all excited. Next one comes from a user. The name is like it's just a random user. He says, "Hey Greg, how you doing?" Good. The best that I can, I suppose. He says, great podcast as usual. Your podcast gets me in the zone to practice guitar and get better at it. So I thank you for that. I've never played Palworld, but I've seen how much it's blown up. And you're right, Nintendo are probably mad. Also, you and Clark should try watching The Amazing World of Gumball, which is one of my favorite childhood shows. I've never heard of that, but I'd be interested in trying it out and see what it is. If you believe in it, maybe we can try it. So I'll report back on The Amazing World of Gumball. At least look into it this week, see where I can find it, if I can stream it anywhere. Easy has a similar thing. He says, thanks for uploading this. Currently, my life feels quick and busy, so your podcast kind of slows life down a tad. Listen in half speed, and then we can get really slow. I sometimes feel like, and I think I've probably done it quite a bit during this episode, I can't even listen to these podcasts back because I feel like all of the podcasts that I listen to are exponentially better than mine. And I don't think I'm very good at this, but the reason that I keep going is because of the consistency. I showed up last week. I promised to show up this week, and I'm going to promise to show up next week. And I'm going to keep doing that. I don't feel like I'm necessarily good at this. Obviously, I go into this with just an outline, not much of a script. I hear a lot of little things that I do, like when I say uhs and ums, really aggravates me, and maybe it would be better if I had it more scripted, but I feel like that takes away the authenticity of this, particularly when I come up with new ideas on the spot, or we go off on tangents and things like that. Whole thing about planning for your future wasn't really even to be a part of this, but it's been like a central theme throughout. So maybe it is for the best, but I do appreciate you for tuning in and making this a part of your week, and I'm glad that we can help you out through things if you're going through such. Next one comes from Jay's Hobby Reviews. He says, "Hey Greg, I do agree with your thought process about your channel as just being part of the journey. Even though some Lego sets or games you play aren't really my interests, I still find value in watching your content overall. I thought about playing Power World with my son, but I do prefer games without weapons, blasters. Thoughts on that game exposure? It's funny thinking about trading a car. I have a 2021 SUV and a 2019 Volkswagen with 195,000 miles. I don't think I'll get much of a trade for that. Looking forward to the yard sale vlogs. Thanks for a great podcast. Keep up the great work." I was looking at this. I'm like, that's a lot of mileage on a car that's 5 years old, almost 200K. You must do a lot of driving. So maybe my podcast keeps you occupied during a part of that. As far as violence in video games, Clark Man's been playing Minecraft since he's 4. There's certainly violence in that game. You're hitting your hand off of a skeleton's head or whatever, hitting him with a stick or a pickaxe. And we've played other games. We haven't gone as far as like the Call of Duty style games and shooting games and things like that. I don't think that would necessarily be great even for a 9-year-old. Not to say that if you are 9 and you play those games, you're not a bad person by any means. I think it's you just have to use your best judgment. Power World certainly isn't a game where it could be confused with reality. Like a game like Grand Theft Auto, for example, where you're hitting people with your car and shooting police officers and things like that. Definitely not. But like Power World, we haven't even gotten to a section of the game yet where we're consistently using guns. The worst thing that I've seen in the game is Clark has one of his pals as a flamethrower, and you can light other pals or people in the game on fire. So, you just have to judge that as a parent. I don't know how old your youngsters are, but I don't think it's that bad. But some people are more or less strict than I am. I think I fall very evenly in the middle ground of things. And I feel like Clark is mature enough that he doesn't see the things in there. And he's like, I'm going to go light one of my friends on fire now because I lit him on fire in Power World. I don't think that's the case. But, you got to do what you think's right. Use the parent handbook that doesn't exist, right? Just like the life handbook that you're just trying to figure everything out as you go. But I'm sure you're doing a great job. And there's tons of E for Everyone games out there to keep you plenty busy that you don't necessarily need to play Power World until until you feel comfortable doing that. If it still exists in the future, we'll see. Next one comes from Matt. It's hungry. I like to say it that way. He says, "Hey, Greg, made it through the 2021 change from Patreon to YouTube. This time I finally went over to Greg's Extras. See, this is my thing that I've done to these poor people that have been around forever. We were on Patreon, and I'm like, let's go to YouTube, make it convenient there. And now I'm like, let's go back to Patreon after like that being a failed experiment. Some of the folks have somehow survived the moves." He says, "The only thing I don't like about all of this," and this is where I got scared reading his comment, "is that I've been with you so long, I've forgotten our passwords. Greg, I wish you and your family all the best." There you go. Like I was like, we dodged a bullet in that one. He's like, "You know what I don't like about this?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready for it, Matt. Just give me the bad news, buddy." And then he was like, he had a positive comment. So again, it's been good. He says, "A comment about cars." I talked about this a little bit last week. Talking about like I don't know how we got into it, but I was talking about like my 3 dream cars right now. One being the Ford Bronco, which I think is like just sick. The Rivian truck, which is sick but wildly expensive, and then one that hasn't come out here in the U.S. yet, but I would really be interested in, and that's the electric Volkswagen ID Buzz. Not necessarily because it's electric, but I just like the old Volkswagen vans, and I think it'd be cool to like have that experience. But he says, "I'm a Ford guy, and I know that Toyota Tacoma you guys have going is going to outlast everything else, probably. To be honest, it's a Toyota. I've seen the Volkswagen bus in person since they have a test facility near my job. It looks awesome, but just remember cold affects those electric cars. Also, like the thing that holds me back from an electric vehicle, and some of you folks will be like, listen, Greg, I have a Tesla and I've had it for, all these years and I've never had this issue. When we go on, and this happens so rare, like most times I can just charge in my garage and I'll never need to go to a gas station or charging station or whatever. When we go on like a long road trip, it's going to suck like when you get 200 or 300 miles, say you get an electric vehicle, and then you're like, well, I got to go to a charging station. Then you sit there and charge and you got to wait for it. Like you think about when you fill up with gas, how quick that process is. You scan your credit card, you fill up with gas, and you're on the road, right? This takes a little time. Not to say that we couldn't fill that with other adventures too. And maybe that would force us, kind of like we were talking about in the podcast, slowing things down. Maybe that would slow us down a little bit and we would enjoy life a little more as we're doing the road trips. But then it also extends your road trip even more. I'm sure they're getting really good with these charging speeds and maybe they're getting faster. I haven't researched it much because as it stands, I'm pretty content with the current vehicles we have. But, those would be like the ones like if I were, I've never been like much of a car guy. Like I've always appreciated cars, but it's not like if someone gave me a Lamborghini, I would be like, okay, how much is this going to cost to insure and what's the maintenance cost? Like I'm like a nerd on that kind of stuff. Um, Not to say I wouldn't accept it. I'd be like, hey, park it right over here. We got a good spot right here. But I want something ideally that like is a good family traveler and dog holder and something maybe we can do a little camping out of. And that the Volkswagen seems like it'd be really great for that, especially some of the configurations that I've seen from the European versions of them. Like if we could camper it out, might be kind of fun. So I'll keep my eye open. I also need to see the price tag on that because right now, like we have no car payments. The cars are owned, and I could just stay content. Because when I think about having a car payment, regardless of how much it is, I just think like, ooh, I could keep the car that I have very easily. Maybe we can use that money towards down payment on land or our future homestead. The thing like that's the only like I don't have many aspirations financially in this world outside of I really love to find the perfect property at some point where it's just like a house that we can either build, although maybe not build now after learning what I've learned about building, maybe like refurbish or just take it as is. Maybe it'll just be perfect for us, and then have some land and maybe a place that my mother and father-in-law can put a place to or be close by. That would be the most ideal situation, and I could just have all my animals and live my happy life happily ever after. That's the only aspiration I really have. Outside of that, I'm just content, and I think not many of us get to the point where we are content because advertising really makes us not want to be that way. You're always wanting the next best thing and greatest thing. And I've just learned like that just doesn't bring you happiness, like once your needs are met, once you have the things that we rely on, like you have food, clothing, shelter, some time for entertainment or enjoyment, maybe listening to a podcast, you have electricity, you have access to the internet, you've got clean running water, you're able to eat calories at your leisure without worry of starving to death. Once you get much past that, like it's not exponentially, you're not exponentially happier once you get past those numbers. Not to say like I guess what I'm saying is I don't think someone like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk is 500 million times happier than what you are at your net worth or whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think those guys probably have the same problems that you have. They got a wife that's trying to buy them a Jeep Wrangler in their dream, and they wake up. I don't know, but that's just my thoughts on things. It's just a theory, a Greg theory. Anyways, let's move on past that. How do I turn listener feedback into all of this? I don't know. Sam, Sam's probably home now. He's sitting in his driveway. He's like, all right, wrap it up. We got a lot more left, my friend. This is from Kimberly. He says, boy, mom, and member of the One and Done Club. Happy face. Couldn't agree more with you that boys are a nonstop thrill, and being into what they are into is a constant joy. See, like you can be a woman that's into what the boys are into, or a guy that's what's in the girls are into. There's no harm in that. You can all watch the Barbie movie. There's no shame in it. She says, now on to Greg's farm. I'm certainly going to be living vicariously through you. So start getting those pets. Stay tuned. With regards to fish, I've kept fish my entire life, and once the tank is established, they're honestly very easy. The setup is hard and can be super stressful, but if you have the time and patience, it's a very rewarding hobby. Plus, fish are awesome. Also, get the van and visit those states, please. As a UK viewer, it'd be awesome to watch. Big love to your family, and give extra love to the furry and feathered members. Now you convinced me. The thing that I was reading was on Reddit. It was talking about how difficult fish can be, or like they're actually more difficult than dogs. And I'm like, oh gosh, like the dog's enough. But I do want to get a fish tank. So I think that may be where the Patreon thing is heading. And maybe we'll do a thing where patrons name the fish, and we'll do the fish thing. Because it's something I want to do. I think like right back there would be a great spot for it. I need one that doesn't make a ton of noise, like with like the aquarium. Maybe there's no way around that. So I'm going to definitely go down the rabbit hole or the fish hole here and see like what my opportunities are to just get started in the hobby. And then we'll see where we take it from there. Just watch, like 3 years from now, we'll be doing an episode. There's going to be like fish swimming all over around me. I'll be like, welcome to Greg's Fish cavern. I don't know. I'm the guy that goes all in on things, and it can be a little scary. So thanks, patrons. We'll try to make it worth your while on all these things. Next one comes from One Clever Pig. He says, glad to hear you're a fellow Subaru enthusiast. I had to sell my twin-turbo Subaru Legacy wagon to move. I miss it dearly. You know what Subaru I would love to have? My dream. This is probably like my realistic dream car, but it's not practical right now. It would have been when I was in college, and my insurance company would have hated me. I want a blue, like the Subaru Rally Blue WRX STI with like the gold wheels. I want one of the older ones from like 2004 or so. That's the car that I want. They're super expensive these days if you can find one, but that's like my dream Subaru. If you were like, I'm going to deliver you a Subaru, I'd be like, that's the one. That's what I would get. I'm sure you've seen it. He says, for your top cars, I think the Rivian and Bronco are great choices, but I'm not sold on the ID Buzz. That's the Volkswagen. He says, I feel like you and your family look good rolling around in a newer Land Rover Defender too. Oh, my wallet is crying right now. He hates you. He says, also, you're making me hungry with all the food comments. I'm not too crazy about the burgers, but we have a plethora of poutine offerings here where I'm from. Should be pretty obvious. He's from Canada, and they always take me where I need to go. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I don't want to drop the money on a car, but like looking at the future, maybe we'll see. Maybe I need a video to really pop off on YouTube. I need them to stop hating on me, and we need to do something viral. Oh, we can make all kinds of dude. That would probably be a move. Get the Volkswagen right when it comes out. Pull the Lego routine where everybody's hustling to get the thing like right when it comes out. Then I'll make a ton of content all about the vehicle, and then it becomes a business expense. My accountant's like, yes, and then we like use it for traveling, write it all off. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. You know what I mean? I don't know what I mean. Anyway, this one, cut that out, Greg. Next one comes from Through Julie's Eyes. Lovely name. It says repeat offender, of course. It says, hey Greg, I don't usually join Patreon. Sorry, but I'll definitely keep watching your channels and watch live streams. Love watching your channels and enjoying them very much when you play House Flipper again. I'm going to try to get that done this weekend. I haven't had much time, but today's the day to crank everything out. So Saturday and Sunday, it's Clark time and family time, I guess. And Mrs. Brickatech, I suppose I'll add her in there, whatever. Yeah, after she made me so mad in my dream, I don't know if I can ever look at her the same way again. Love that game. House Flipper is a game where you basically start from scratch. You start doing some repair jobs. People love it when I play the most boring games. I think it's because I'm a boring person and I attract people that like boring stuff, as evidenced by you listening to this podcast now. We just cracked an hour, by the way. We're going to go for quantity over quality for sure. House Flipper, you're literally just, it's what it says. You're doing repair jobs for people. They're paying you handsomely, I find. And then you can use that money to then buy a dilapidated house and then use money that you're saving up from your repairs to then fix that house up and then sell it and create like a real estate empire. I haven't gotten that far, but I have enough money to buy my first house, which is where we left off. So I do want to continue that game. I love just like these simulation style games so much, like American Truck Simulator, Flight Simulator. I don't know. I'm just a boring person, obviously. But it's fun, like doing these mundane things I actually enjoy. There's no fear of like monsters getting you. You're not trying to save the world. The princess is not in another castle. You're just living a life that you wish you could live. Farming Simulator. Don't even get me started, my friends. Anyways, it's like a combination of different games, and that's I'm messing your comment up. It says, nice to hear that you've been up to and what you've done. Enjoying watching. Keep smiling, from Julie. Well, thank you, Julie. Thanks for commenting, and thank you for watching my gaming channel too. You just never know who's watching. I would not picture someone named Julie watching the gaming channel. I don't know why. I picture younger men, boys, kids. Don't tell YouTube. Picture them watching it. Brickstar has a similar comment. He says, this is Jabbo, by the way, one of my favorite dudes. He says, I'm glad you've had fun with video games. It's great to do something you love. I played video games a lot back in the day, still like some of the classics. There's a pinball arcade that we occasionally go to. That being said, I've lost interest in computer video games. I've never had an interest in YouTube gaming content. How you feel about Lego streams is how I feel about video game content. No interest personally, but I understand that others thoroughly enjoy it. I think that's a great sentence there. No interest personally, but I understand others and thoroughly enjoy it. And I think if we can all be more understanding of that, like, you don't always have to impose your will on others. You can share your opinion, but I feel like the internet has become a place where everyone like feels the need to like get other people to agree with them. And that's just not the way the world works, So I mentioned last week that I find that not only hosting, but watching Lego live streams to be kind of boring, particularly when you compare it to gaming stuff. Because with gaming, there's this visual element of it, and something was always happening, and not so much of you as a host trying to fill the blank space that is like doing something that like is fun for you personally, like building a Lego set, but maybe not interesting to watch. I think ultimately what it comes down to, whether it's Lego live streams, gaming live streams, whatever it is, I think you have to find some personality of someone that you enjoy. And I think if you can do that, regardless of the content they're making, like you'll enjoy what they're doing. Like we had the person earlier said, who was that? Clever Pig? Or who was that? Who was that? I missed you. Someone said, oh, no. It was J Hobby Reviews. I'm sorry. It said, even though some of the Lego sets or games you play aren't really my interests, I still find value in watching your content. I think that's the key. So if you can find someone that you enjoy watching, whether they're playing a boring house flipping game or like a boring action game with all this stuff happening, or a very interesting house flipping game, if you can kind of get invested in them, I think it can be a lot of fun. So no shade towards anybody that makes what anyone would consider boring streams. If you enjoy doing it, do the heck out of that. But for me, like between the two, what I've been doing in the world of Lego is like just watching things on my own, like watching YouTube videos, listen to podcasts while I build. And I find that to be my most enjoyable way to build. It takes a lot of the stress off of it and like less screwing up because I'm terrible at multitasking. But when I'm playing games, I feel like it becomes one of those things where it's like a symbiotic relationship, like a 1 + 1 = 3 type routine where I'm doing something and then someone gives me a tip and I'm like, oh, thank you. That like saved me. So it becomes something like more valuable than what it could be otherwise. And it also encourages me to play games, which I do still enjoy. I wonder what game would I recommend Jabbo play to get him back into gaming. I think he would probably enjoy, I don't know what kind of games he likes, but I'm trying to think of something that involves like building or collecting, because he's a collector at heart. Power World? No, I don't know. If you have a game that Jabbo should play, he's a little bit older than me. Just if you don't know, he's a little bit older than me. He loves Lego. He loves collecting. He loves trains. Oh, maybe you could play Railroad Tycoon. You might like that game. You get to build tracks, go between places. He probably played that one. That's an older game. I don't know. Roller Coaster Tycoon. Might like that one too. If you like roller coasters and things, and manning a Parkitect, that's like that too. You probably like those kind of games, I think, because it's not like super crazy and you're like building up towards something. And I don't know. I'm trying to get you back, man. Trying to get you into the gaming scene. But again, I don't need to impose anything on someone else. I do that probably a little too much in some cases. What I do is I try unintentionally, I get really passionate about something and I try to like spread that to the world, and I do it in a way that I feel like maybe it gets people excited about such things, and it makes me happy to try to get people over. Anyways, thank you for the comment and good advice, or good message at the end there. Next one comes from Clay Turl. It says $30,000 for cabinets. Wow. I bought my house and have practically got it all and still under that. When it comes to kids, I have 3, 2 boys and a girl. The girl was a better experience, but probably helped. She's a daddy's girl. Very cool. Yeah, I think with houses, you could take a huge, there's no single formula. If you do all the work yourself and you get, you find good deals and things, I think you could do really well. I think it's when you're building a new house and you're really putting it to the extremes of like niceness. Not to say your house isn't nice, but like, you know what I mean? Like some people, money's no object. And it's like, if that's what those beautiful cabinets are going to cost, so be it. Other people wouldn't even spend that on an entire house. Like you're happy living in a house that costs $20,000 and you're content. I'd say more power to you. You're going to have a lot more money later on to invest in other things, maybe things that make you happy. But if your house makes you happy and that's the thing you've been working towards your entire life and you finally found it and you got your land and you're building your dream house, I say do whatever you can to make it exactly the way you want it to be. Next one comes from Sam. How we do this week, Sam? Did we make it back home? This has been an ongoing thing for a few episodes. If you don't know, you probably know. He says, "What's happening, Greg? Just heard another beautiful." Oh, here we go. He says, "Another beautiful time podcast. Had about 90 seconds left when I pulled in the driveway. I planned that." He says, "First topic I want to talk about this week is the home improvement market. When I first heard about your friend's cabinets costing $30,000, I was in shock, but when I thought about it, it makes sense. I say this because in order to update our outdated kitchen, which granted is very big, it would cost upwards of $60,000, which is pure insanity." See, you can see like the differences here. "We bought our house back in 2013 when the oil boom was happening and houses were at sky-high prices. Were you a part of the Osage tribe by chance? Killers of the flower moon. However, back in these days, However, these days it seems like my area is struggling in the housing market, and between the condition of certain aspects of our exterior, how much we bought the house for, and how much we've put into it, we would definitely lose money on it big time if we went to sell it today. This is the situation where people just walk away from houses in some cases. That's what happened during the Great Recession. People overmortgaged their houses, owed way more than they're worth, and they're just like, "Why am I paying for this place?" So they just left. Maybe you see that in your area too. He says, the other thing I want to talk about is vehicles. You know, Greg, the Rivian is great and the Bronco's even better. But have you heard about the 2024 Tacoma? I should go on to say Sam is a huge Toyota fanboy who has actually found our channel through Cody's Toyota video, which is kind of funny. He said, it's all new and improved with features that are sure to make your 2019 Tacoma. He's trying to sell me right now, isn't he? He's like, call my dealership, which, by the way, is a glorious piece, especially in that Calvary blue color. Look, I like a technological dinosaur. What? A dinosaur? Oh, yeah, it is. It is kind of, it's behind the times. Also, I am super surprised that you are thinking about new vehicles so soon, Greg. Historically, based on some Greg's World research, you tend to keep vehicles for just about a decade, so it just surprises me for some reason. I probably will keep the Subaru for a decade unless something really pops out at me. I don't know. You know the type of guy I am. I find the thing I love and I stick with it. And typically, unless it's moving members between YouTube and Patreon, and that you call me a liar. Of course, I see nothing wrong with that being a car guy either. I love the car you have as well. If it makes you feel any better. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't a Toyota driver, I'd probably be a Subaru driver. Little secret, I've always wanted to try one out. They're lovely cars. I love Subarus. It just, I had the Crosstrek for 10 years, and now I have the Forester, which is kind of like a bigger Crosstrek. And it's like, I've been doing the same thing, which I feel comfortable with. I love the car. But like, could I be enticed? You know, maybe. We'll see. I said to myself, I don't want to spend the money though. Again, I'd rather put that money into something like my homestead. Be better used. In fact, I should sell the Subaru, go get a $1,000 beat up pickup truck, and then use all the Subaru money towards the homestead farm. I could get a lot of different animals, pigs and cows and sheep and goats for all that money. Probably. I myself personally have more cars than a high schooler probably should at once. I own a 2020 Tacoma TRD off-road in magnetic gray metallic. You have a car that's newer than my wife's vehicle. I hope you know. A 2023 4Runner Limited in Blizzard Pearl. A 2023 Camry SE in Ice Cap, which is the car I listened to today's podcast in. Whoa. You've got 3 cars and they're all within the last 4 years old. Man, you are living the life. I have owned other cars before these as well. If you're wondering how I'm able to afford this, I don't. I'm a beyond spoiled teenager who's fortunate enough to have everything he does. I love that. We were all wondering. We're like, wait, what's this kid doing, man? What's going on here? You got rich parents. Let's just put it out there, right? They're doing pretty well for themselves. However, I'm facing a situation which I'm obviously not in need of all these 3 all at once anymore or ever. Wait, these are just yours. Like, now I'm picturing your family owning all these cars and you get to ride around in whichever one you want. These are just your cars. So your family has an entire fleet of cars, 3 of which are yours, my friend. You are living the life. You know what I drove, Sam, when I was in high school? This was 2003. I drove a 1986 Ford Ranger 5-speed. 1986, dude. Like, it was 2 years older. I was 2 years older than that vehicle. I was born in 84. So, dude, just think about it. You're living the life. He says, I'm playing around with a few ideas that I originally had posted, but decided to save my fellow listeners some pain. Every time I go to do it, though, I get sentimental and end up keeping everything. After all, I do have my dream trio of Toyotas that I've waited a long time to have. Oh, and by the way, if you or Cody ever need help with your Tacoma or any sort of input on cars, give me a shout. Cars are my true hobby. Toyotas are my true specialty, though. I love the passion, dude. Last thing I will talk about is how much I needed you today. I had a rough afternoon at school, and I really needed a pick-me-up, and you delivered. You made me laugh and helped me remember to appreciate life for what it is. Thank you. It's about time for me to end my Sam talk, but I figure I'd just give you my input since you asked, I think. He says, remember to enjoy every day like it's your best day. You're amazing, Greg. I'm going to cut that part out. He says, I'll see you here, same place, same time, same place next week. And that's the message I have for all you guys, too. Look at Sam. Basically took over my podcast. He should just start his own Car Talk podcast, make it a thing. Sam's Toyota Talk. Copyright, patent that. But yeah, it's just a young dude doing what he loves to do. with some help from the parents. Nothing wrong with that. If Clark Man has a passion, I'm certainly not going to be buying him 3 brand newish Toyotas. I might help him with his first car and be like, all right, man. Actually, I'll be like, hey, Clark Man, got your first car. It's a 2022 Subaru Forester. It's got 200,000 miles on it. It's out there in the driveway. Congratulations, buddy. You've been driving it or riding in it for the last 10 years. Have fun. Now, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. I love the idea as a parent. We're supposed to be ending this podcast. Let me just add this part in since we're in the topic. I love the idea of doing a dollar-to-dollar match on the first car. That way the kid has some skin in the game and they have some appreciation. So if Clark saves $1,000, I give him $1,000. Not that that would really even get you anything anymore. Like when I was a kid, I think that truck we had was like it was probably like a $2,000 truck at the time, which today, like if you were to buy something similar age or whatever, probably be like an $8,000 vehicle just because of the way vehicles are. But I want him to have some investment in it and to be working towards it in some way, even if that's making YouTube videos, which is I'm totally fine with because that's what I do. And if he wants to make YouTube videos, gaming videos, whatever it is, and use that to finance or help him save up and gives him some motivation and encouragement, gives him something to work for and like a purpose, I think that's great. So that's kind of like my plan as it stands. We got a long time to think about that, like 7 years. So, we'll see how things go. I'd love to be in a position like your family. Maybe we will. I'll be like, Clark, man, pick your 3 dream cars out, buddy. We're multimillionaires. We got it made, buddy. And then he can do that. But I don't know about that. So on that, you gotta dream big, right? But you also have to dream realistically. And you got to think about, this is where I'll leave you off. Where do you want to be tomorrow? Where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you want to be 5 years, 10 years? You can name whatever number you want, but think about where you want to be. This is what I'm doing in mine. I'm saying you as me. Think about where you want to be and come up with an idea of how you plan to get there. That's what I'm going to challenge myself with in this next week, and I encourage you to do the same. But if not, I appreciate you tuning into the podcast. Have a glorious week, and as always, we'll find you in the next Missing Pieces.